Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today's October 12th, 2022. I have a lot of things I want to discuss, but I'm going to have to move quickly because once again they got me. I was contacted earlier this morning about a call that's starting at noon that I really feel that I need to listen to. I need the information. In my opinion, it's a credible source, so I hope they can clear up some of the confusion out there because there's a lot of things going on that seem to be a little bit contradictory, and I'm going to go through that with you. First, again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time or will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. If this is your first contact with us, I strongly suggest after listening to this rather brief call that you go back to our call of October 5th because that's a full-blown call. It goes into detailed description of the program we put in place to assist you, and then there's a Q&A as well. So I want to go ahead and get right into everything. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information we believe to be relevant. Obviously, the most important piece of information to be the window for the potential reinstitution of the Iraqi Dinar. In my opinion, the dinar could revalue literally at any time, or for reasons that I will get into on this call, it could be delayed. That's been the case for a very long time. So the only thing that's changed is a lot of the boxes that needed to be checked in order for the reinstitution have been checked, and we're very close to checking that last box. I'm going to get into that with you. It is a confusing situation. I have from time to time drawn an analogy between the United States and Iraq. I'm going to do it again today to try to clarify what, in my opinion, I believe is going on in Iraq. So let's talk about the players. We have the sadrists that I will associate with our Republican Party. We have the coalition framework, which I will associate with the current Democratic Party. And we have the Kurds that I will associate with the more non-political independents. Now, the sadrists, like the Republican Party, is basically the hard-working middle class, and they're populists. The coalition framework, again, I associate with the Democratic Party, more of an elite party. Now, these are individuals as a coalition that are a little bit more diverse. They have the more moderate Shia who are willing to make concessions and to compromise, but the coalition framework, like the Democratic Party, is run by the more aggressive elite. These are radical pro-Iranian Shia, and they are the individuals, in my opinion, that are holding back the progress in Iraq. And the reason they're doing so is because after the fall of Saddam Hussein, Iran has been successful in basically utilizing Iraq as a piggy bank, and they don't want that to end. Now, right now, the government, the caretaker government, is still in place pending the formation of a new government, and so here's where the contradiction is. We've basically been told, and when we look at the past, that the caretaker government has basically been a group that's just kept the lights on. They really haven't done anything controversial or provocative at all. As I said, they do very little. However, that has not been the case with the caretaker government under the prime ministership of Kazemi. For example, Kazemi has managed to preside over the passage of the Emergency Food Security Law, which is something they said that the caretaker government couldn't do. Kazemi is also in the process of negotiating trade and banking deals with multiple countries in the Middle East and in Europe as well, something in terms of foreign policy. Certainly a caretaker government is not supposed to be able to do. Kazemi is a very important individual. I think historically we'll look back that he was the right guy in the right place. And while I make an analogy with the United States, I'm going to digress a little bit and compare Kazemi to George Washington. Now, George Washington was faced with a very chaotic situation. He was also faced with the Revolutionary War, which was not really going that well. But despite that, he managed to keep the colonies together. He managed to keep the Revolutionary Army together. He managed to overcome defeat after defeat and was victorious in the Revolutionary War. After the war, George Washington is most famous for his speech where he declined the position basically of dictator and retired to private life only to become the president. Even when he ran for president, the term was excellency, and he rejected that, and they went with the term president. And George Washington justified his view in terms of the person that was his model. And that's why I say history repeats itself. His model was General Lucius Cincinnatus, general of the Roman army. When the German hordes were invading Rome, he crossed the Rubicon, defeated the oncoming German hordes, but rather than assume the role of dictator, he surrendered the army to the Senate and retired. And that's who George Washington modeled his affairs after, and in a sense, that's what Kazemi is doing. Kazemi is the one individual that's trying to cut through all of the sectarianism, all of the tribalism, all of the interference from Iran and other countries, and trying to create a modern, sovereign state where Sunni, Shia, and Kurds can live in peace. Now, tomorrow, the Parliament is supposed to vote on the new President of the Republic. The scuttlebutt is that it's going to be by overwhelming vote, although we'll have to see what happens. Barham Salih, who happens to be the sitting President of the Republic in the caretaker government. So that's a very good first step into organizing a new government. The other thing I will mention is the government of Iraq is on official notice from the UN that if they do not form a new government very shortly, I would give them maybe 30 days from that, they're going to fall back into Chapter 7. We absolutely do not want to see that happen. Kazemi does not want to see that happen. As a matter of fact, let me just go back a moment. When I mentioned the fact that Kazemi was negotiating trade and banking deals with these countries, there is no way that these countries would entertain negotiations on trade and banking deals with Iraq unless there was a clear understanding that the Iraqi dinar would be coming out of a program's rate and would reinstitute and revalue globally. So I think we're really at a very important point here. This parliamentary session could be very important because if they can push through and name anyone, particularly if it's Barham Salih, then we're moving in the right direction for the formation of a new government. And in my opinion, once they form a new government, the exchange rate will happen within days, if not hours. So that's what we hope occurs. Now, as I said, I need to get to this other call, but before I do, I want to very briefly explain to you, whether you are a Dinarian or whether you're simply an American citizen, why you need to contact us and get our initial trust package to understand our trust package and how it works. And I'm going to walk through the 5 reasons why you need to establish this trust, whether you're a Dinarian or not, but if you're an American citizen. First, the privacy issue. Assets within our trust are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings, making it extremely difficult for an individual to sue you because civil suits are about monetary awards. and having no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings, they have no reason to believe that there would be a payday at the end, even if they were to prevail in a civil suit. Second, by establishing this trust package, you're going to avoid IRS scrutiny. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, it's very likely that the IRS is going to do an audit. And given the magnitude of this revaluation relative to prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. But by assigning these currencies to the trust, you will have transferred the taxable event from yourself to the trust. If you're a dinarian, that means that the IRS can't do a 6-year audit because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. But whether you have currencies or not, the IRS is loath to audit individuals with very sophisticated trusts because they know that if you have a sophisticated trust, you probably have very competent legal representation. So they're just doing the math. It's going to take time and money to audit someone with a sophisticated trust package. In that same amount of time, they can probably audit a half a dozen other people. So they're going to move along. Third, if you are dinarian and you plan on gifting currencies to people and you're concerned about their management of that wealth, you may want to manage that wealth as well. Well, that can be done very simply with the trust, because by gifting the currencies through the trust, you'll then have control of the post-RV's proceeds. That holds true if you're an American citizen as well, because you can gift to individuals through the trust, meaning in essence you've created a life estate where they have access and use of the asset, but it's still under your control within the trust. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust, whether you have currencies or not, is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay and the federal estate tax. So whether you've acquired this wealth through the revaluation of currencies or whether you have a substantial amount of wealth through just working hard and building yourself through your lifetime, you can avoid the federal estate tax, which at present can be as much as 65% of your entire estate. Last, this package is going to protect you from civil litigation because it uses a strategy called segregation of assets. What we mean by that is your individual physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc., each go into a sub-trust managed by the master trust. This is what constitutes the package. So if any one of those assets, the car or rental property, anything gets involved in civil litigation, it's only that asset and the owners of that asset that are involved. All of your other assets are in separate sub-trusts and therefore have separate owners. So you've limited any potential civil loss to that one asset rather than dragging all of your other assets and net worth into civil litigation. So for this reason, whether you're a dinarian or not, as an American citizen, particularly with the people running the country right now, you need to protect your privacy, you need to protect your wealth, and you need to ensure that agencies like the IRS with their new 87,000 agents cannot harass or harangue you. Because let's face it, they don't want us to have this money. But they can't figure out how they can get their cut and keep us out without getting clawed back. So this trust is great protection for you. Again, I strongly suggest if you're listening for the first time, you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It does include everything you need if you decide to proceed and apply, submit an application to establish a trust, but it has a lot of information about us, about the trust, about the revaluation, and about your rights as an American citizen, which can be protected no better than through a trust product such as this. Now, you can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC.com. Or you can contact us by email, which is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC at gmail.com. Or you can contact us through our phone service, which is 307-274-4122. We'll be happy to send you our initial package right away. You can review that package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. There is no consultation fee. Now, our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen, We'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Have a great week, and let's hope things go well with the parliamentary session tomorrow. Bye-bye.